everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Kentik Close-Up, where we zoom in on the latest Kentik features, products, or capabilities. In each episode, our team brings you a focused overview of just one aspect of the suite of Kentik's network observability solutions. I'm Leonardo, one of the Kentik technical evangelists, and with me today are Rosalind Whitley, Director of Enterprise Product Marketing, with her ball. Hey!
With the ball. It's out of the frame now. You didn't see that.
It's great. No, it's perfect. I love it. And also, Kendra Crossman, Product Operations Manager. I don't know if you have any toys to bring along also.
I don't have any fitness equipment to share. Sorry.
Okay. All right. I don't either, but that's because I don't own any. Welcome to Close Up. It is so nice to have you both on the program. So before we dive into the actual technical thing that we're going to do, we are whole people who have a life and everything. So I'd love to hear from each of you. First of all, like, what do you do at Kentik? Just generally, what is your job about? But then also, if there's anything especially interesting or exciting going on in your world, you're welcome to share it. And Rosalind, I'm going to pick on you first because you have the exercise equipment.
I have a lot of exercise equipment, so I was glad that you framed the ball that way. It's actually something that my son chases around more often than not. But I have some more serious exercise equipment. My most prized possession is a very fancy gravel bike with electronic shifting, if you know what that is. Yay! I like to bike. I like to rock climb. There's some equipment required for that to not die. And I recently started getting into river kayaking, and I really want to kayak down a waterfall. Stay tuned. That could be the way that I die. But
Yeah, I was gonna say the whole not dying kayak down a waterfall is
so cool though. I'm not just gonna do it like I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna get better at river kayaking on rapids first, and
okay.
then like really like work my way up to it. So anyway, that's my new
Awesome.
obsession. But I'm also a director of product marketing. I really enjoy product marketing. I used to be an engineer, and I'm not anymore. And product marketing is really fun, and I do that for
Awesome.
Kentik.
Fabulous. Okay, Kendra. It's hard to top that.
Yeah,
Waterfall
Rosalind, so much
kayaking, stuff like that. But
energy.
let's,
I don't know.
how you doing?
I don't know how to match that. I manage product operations, which just means anything operational that needs to happen to get a product to market or a feature to market, I sort of step in for or help out with. I don't think as extreme of hobbies as Rosalind, but I do ride horses. Um,
The
which I
puppies,
guess,
the puppies.
and I
Yeah,
have and I have puppies. I live in a 1970s A-frame on 5 acres with my husband, our two puppies, our chickens, our barn cats, and just like a whole sort of crew of animals. And
got it.
I don't have
You know what? I will
I
tell
don't have
you.
any desire to kayak down a waterfall. Actually,
No,
I'm really
no,
scared.
it's Kendra, it's you and me. Like, I am right there in team quiet farmland,
Wow.
feed the horses, and not team die kayaking down a
I'm not gonna lie,
waterfall.
horses can be a little sketchy, but
Yeah.
But they don't.
water's so scary to me.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing. Okay, all right. So we do have some work to do here. And today the job that we're showing up to do is network monitoring systems. Now I'm not going to tiptoe around the elephant in the room. Network monitoring solutions are not new in any way, shape, or form. There are a lot of them, and a lot to choose from. But before we explore the question that raises, I'm wondering if either one of you can give like a quick explainer of what you would expect to see in a network monitoring solution. Like, what do they typically include?
Yeah, so you're not wrong. NMSs have been around for a very long time, and their job is to provide oversight of really to monitor the availability and performance of network gear. So they collect metrics from network devices, and offers alerts and dashboards to help teams better understand and respond to those metrics.
Okay, cool. And I'm just curious because that's kind of all monitoring. So the network part of network monitoring, like how does that specifically fit in?
Well, so there are other things that we need to monitor to make sure that our network is healthy. So it can be everything from like data centers can get pretty hot and that's very bad. So monitoring the temperature of the room or the temperature of a particular device can be really important. There are also like any kind of bits and bobs that you want to monitor on an application. So there are lots of bespoke things that you start to need to monitor as you're operating software over time or operating devices and workloads over time. Basically, any of those with the right NMS, any of those can be onboarded to monitor. And so, like, even Leon, you gave me an extreme example when we were talking about this a while back, where SNMP can actually like monitor the task manager in Windows,
It's one of
which
my favorite stupid SNMP tricks. You can actually mimic the Windows Task Manager using SNMP. So like when you hit Control Shift Escape on your keyboard and it pops up the Task Manager, you can do that with SNMP. You would never want to, but
you don't
it,
want to.
it can be done.
But there are a lot of things that you probably do want to monitor with SNMP or another protocol. And a good NMS will let you kind of do all of that. And some of these things are like some of these things, if you have an application that it's really, really important that it not fail. And it's not just about availability, it's also about performance. I think like high frequency trading always comes to mind for me. You may be wanting to monitor some of those leading indicators that there might be a problem coming. Like, hey, we saw this in an incident before. This was like the canary in the coal mine. Let's monitor that. An NMS will give you the opportunity to monitor really anything that you want to monitor about your software or workload. Yeah.
Awesome. Great explanation. All right. So we're sort of edging toward it, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Why do we even need a separate NMS anymore? Like so many applications and vendor solutions and platforms have their own sort of monitoring stuff built in. Um, and people already know what they want to know, in terms of what's going on, whether it's CPU and RAM or something more esoteric that we were just talking about. So why not just use what comes in the box and leave it at that? Why do we feel like we have to stick our nose in this?
Well, I mean, I would say the really short answer to that would be because that's nuts, Leon. But I can explain a little bit
No,
of
I
the
think that's
why
I
good.
there.
think that's
I
I think
think
that's
it's time.
plenty technical. That's plenty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I'm here, folks. So no,
Absolutely.
I think as I mentioned in the when we were talking about the your last question, Leon, as you're operating a piece of software or a suite of software or your workloads over time, things arise, new pieces of software come under your ownership or under your operatorship. Software grows and changes, features grow and change, certain things get deprecated, new systems get brought on, new equipment gets brought on, new data centers and new regions get opened up, et cetera, et cetera. New things are going to arise. So as you're going through operating those things, I would say, yeah, like the only thing constant is change, right? So you start to learn over time, though, what you definitely need in your environment as those things are implemented, things are enhanced. And so I think as that happens, inevitably people who build a solution or people who onboard a piece of equipment start like maybe build their own monitoring or they identify their own telemetry, which is very important to monitoring that thing. And that'll become the solution for monitoring that thing. And then that ends up getting kind of that rolls downhill and knock operators who like let's say, okay, I think Prometheus and Grafana is a really good example of this, especially with modern applications. Like Prometheus and Grafana may be spun up to monitor a particular application or a particular part of a particular application. The knock doesn't love using that, but they get it thrown over the wall at them and they are expected to use it. Also, whenever you get new devices, you end up with proprietary tools that are supposed to help you monitor that particular device, right? But if you're thinking about working in a knock or just holding the pager at any given time, if you have 20 different tools that you may have to go into to look at to troubleshoot a situation when something goes wrong, or 20 different tools that you need to be paying attention to and have integrated into your service now or whatever, that's pretty overwhelming. And that could be that could be pretty catastrophic in an incident. And also, as those more homegrown tools or bespoke solutions, they get dug in, then they inevitably become brittle, and people end up with what we call, well, in the biz we might call it a mature set of monitoring solutions, but really the word is cruft, right? Things get pretty crufty. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
I love it.
I
It's
think
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Kendra, anything you want to add to that?
I think like I would just want to say, like there really is no one size fits all solution or even one size fits most. So whether you're building or buying an NMS solution, anyone who's telling you this is probably selling you something. And the real sort of like question at the heart of things is the solution you have interoperable with other solutions? Does it play well with your other tools? And is it flexible enough to scale with your business?
Yeah. So those point solutions, like how's this Cisco XYZ router doing? Those vendor-based management tools, they're not going to tell you how everything is interoperating, right?
Right.
So that's where the NMS comes in.
Perfect. All right. So again, we're sort of edging closer to the ultimate answers, but so we've talked about like what NMSs are, and we've talked about why we can't just use the one that's in the box because again, the very technical answer because that's nuts, Leon. But okay. But what is it that Kentik is bringing to the table now? Because we do have a solution for this. So I think we've talked about like why we can't use the built-in one, but now what's our specific point of view on this? What are we gonna do here to solve these issues?
Yeah, that's it. That's a great question. And honestly, as monitoring professionals ourselves, we saw that the tools available were still lacking certain features that we as IT professionals were expecting to see. So essentially what we did is we built a tool that we wished existed and wished that we had.
Yeah. So, like a good example of that is like streaming telemetry, right? Right. There are plenty of tools out there that support streaming telemetry. Some of them are some of them are vendor driven tools for specific devices. Other folks might monitor streaming telemetry with a Prometheus type of situation, or like monitoring things. A lot of devices and applications have things that you can like if you if you pull it with SNMP, you can only get a certain number of metrics. But if you hit the API, you can get way more information. So
Right.
folks who are trying to get that full breadth of information, whether it be full breadth of telemetry, metric telemetry, whether it be streaming or API, whatever kind of subscription based protocol you're looking at, we don't want folks to have to swap out their tools to support that or to have to use a bespoke tool to do it. We want to be a tool that will either integrate with or replace a lot of these other bespoke solutions so that folks can go to one place at least as a starting point when they need to understand what's going on. And I think the other thing that is was really important for Kentik in putting this NMS together. If you know Kentik, you probably know that our ultimate jam is advanced traffic analysis. So flow data from all your environments is something that we have been enriching and alerting on and gathering insights on for years. And really, like when we talk to folks, and really in your troubleshooting mindset, right? You're thinking like, oh, this utilization is 90% right now. Your next question is going to be why, right? Like what does the traffic look like? How is the traffic moving? What's making up this traffic? And where do you answer those questions? Flow. So putting metrics and flow together, I think, is something that we felt that we didn't really see in the market. Like maybe you can have two windows open and you can correlate and go back and forth like this. We didn't want to do that when we're troubleshooting. We want to be able to understand that why question really naturally in the flow when we're trying to optimize something or understand it.
Right. And I also say I just want to emphasize that the idea of having these very widely disparate types of data flow and metrics, and then streaming telemetry, and then API, which sort of drive back to the same place, but they're not often united in terms of the presentation, that they sit in different data repositories, or you have to, even within a single tool, you have to look at them in different places. And the idea of federating those together so that they're all telling a coherent story was really important in what we were doing. I think. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong, and we'll have to cut this part, I guess. I don't know.
No, I don't think you're wrong, and I think it's a good segue into everyone's like most hated buzzword, which is AI. And like I know you're probably gonna have to cut this because it is a four-letter word at this point. But
Right.
um truthfully, the way that like Kentik AI operates today allows users, to be able to see a really wide range of data from flow to DDoS to botnet. And users don't have to be experts in any one specific space. So the barrier to entry to, I think like some very complex issues is much lower.
I love
Yeah.
that. I really do. I might be really good with again the details of the metrics coming off of a device, but I'm not a flow expert. And the fact
Mhm.
that AI can just be that thing that helps me ask the right questions and let the data, let the application do the data thinging. If I lose you with these technical terms, just let me know. But the data thinging, putting it
Yeah.
all together, I love that. I think that's where AI really is probably helpful and not buzzwordy.
Yeah. It's like all the places where it can take a human-centric approach and just make that like make you feel a little smarter and a little faster when you are that human driving that human-centric approach. Like I think that's where it can shine. So
Love it. Okay, well, speaking of humans driving things, I must see this. I must see it now. Is one of you ready to maybe show a little bit of what we've got going here?
I think so.
Okay.
This is actually gotta say it's my first tour that I've given of the NMS to the public. So I'm pretty excited
Okay.
to stumble around in this interface with you. And so any questions that you have, please share them
Definitely.
and we will go from there. So I'm starting here on my dashboard. This is and just like any dashboard in Kentik, this is totally customizable. So what you see on here should be like what's most useful to you. But right now I've got this kind of knock style view that's showing me insight into what alerts is the NMS seeing right now. So I've got device availability and I've got uptime as a time series here. Then I've got my active alerts here. There are top talkers, I believe some here somewhere. Yeah, I've got my interfaces with the highest utilization, devices with the highest CPU, etc. And
Hmm.
then I was talking just a moment ago about kind of the correlation between traffic and metrics. And we even have this kind of in our main dashboard if you want it in yours. So we can interweave traffic, kind of traffic data because again if I'm wondering what's happening, I see an alert here and I'm wondering, well, what's the traffic that's driving that? That's actually looking at the traffic overview is how I would figure that out. There's a
Right. And
lot
I just
more.
want to, I want to emphasize for some folks that are maybe new to looking at this screen that you don't confuse traffic overview with the typical, like, this is how much bandwidth is coming out of this interface. This is actually using flow data to figure out which of the traffic is moving, egress outbound or ingress inbound. And then
Yeah.
also you can even have other criteria like what application is it using or what protocol or what have you. This is really using that flow-based data along with the other metrics to tell a coherent story. Sorry, I had to jump in because that was one of the things that struck me the first time I looked at it also.
Yeah, and there are lots of this isn't the only or the most exciting place in the product where you can look at that, but this is
Right.
just kind of an example of how we weave that into everything that we do as we're looking at what's going on with our devices. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, thanks for jumping in, Leon. Let's go look at some devices. Speaking of devices, I'm going to click onto our devices page. This is where I can go, by the way, if I'm ready to deploy an SNMP collector and set one up. I can do that by adding devices here and I can set up my full monitoring or my ping only. This is, so if I'm doing this full monitoring, I get these installation commands to deploy the collector, and then I can add my subnets and credentials in the next step to get it working. And as I do that, which I'm not going to do right now, I'm going to see them come into my devices page really quickly in real time here. So I don't have to wait. I don't have to wait for them to kind of populate this in a batch. It's like as soon as I've got the collector deployed and I have my my subnet range input, and then it's able to reach that device, I'll see it here in the list. And that can happen really within seconds. And this devices list I have here on the main page, I can customize this so that based on what I want. So if I want to be able to sort things by CPU utilization, or if I want to sort them by model or product name, I can do that, which is pretty nice. And then when I click into, let's see, are there any devices I really want to click into? We'll just start with this one. When I click into a device, oh, also this list is searchable. So like, let's say I want to look at, so in the device list, I will click on this one, this guy,
Hmm.
and I've got all of my important information here. Of course, I've got my uptime here at the top. I've got my inbound utilization, my outbound utilization, CPU memory. If I had temperature data, that's where it would show. Here's my metadata, including my serial number. And then even if I want like BGP information, when I go to the traffic tab, that's where I can find that. All my information about the BGP neighborhood and the AS is nearby. I've got things like what applications I'm supporting with these devices, etc. There's a lot of rich detail here.
So the interfaces tab is sort of calling my name, because that is typically if there's a big problem with the box, whether it's a router or a server or whatever it is, like that's on the main page. But you
Yeah.
spend your day dealing with interfaces. You don't spend your day dealing with, say, CPU on the main box typically.
Yeah,
So
it's true. So this is the space where I've got interface utilization that's broken out. And again, I can customize this. So if I want to look at each interface active on this device and I want to understand it based upon the utilization, or let's say discards, like I want to understand it by discards, I can sort by that. And I don't have any exciting discards on this one, but that's the kind of detail that I can get here, looking at it from the interface perspective. And yeah, and I already showed you the traffic tab, right? That's
yeah.
top applications, top IP addresses, and I've got my top interfaces there as well. So
So I
there's
just want to stop you here because again, this is a thing that I see even longtime users overlook. It's that customize option over on the right-hand side, sort of in the middle of the page there.
yeah, yep,
People, yes, we have created a layout that we think is generally pleasing to most people, but everyone's use cases are very particular and specific. And I know that in a lot of applications, customize is, here there be dragons. Like, do not touch this because it will break everything. That is not how, and Kendra, you know this probably better than anybody, that is not how we approach our interface design or our UI. We make it easily and we encouragingly customizable because we know that every single customer, every single individual is going to have a different way of looking at things. And adding some of these elements is going to be critical to getting, to showing the right information, to finding problems, to getting things solved.
absolutely. And I think one other thing to call out on this page is like here, I've got my traffic graph here if I want to take a look at it. But really, another thing that we always want to empower folks to do is ask their own questions of the data and understand it from the perspective that they need to, and with a level of granularity that they need to. So that's why I can always click into my data explorer to understand this, and I've got all of my fields populated if I need to look at traffic on this device. So that's a really handy kind of connection between the two pieces. So back on the devices page here, when I click into the detail page for one of these devices, there's a lot of great information. This is the the regular and important stuff you expect to see, right? So I've got uptime, inbound utilization, outbound utilization, CPU memory, lastly, if I want to understand who my BGP neighbors are for this particular network, I can click on that tab and I can also make some make some filtering, do some filtering based on how I want to peer an AS that the AS that I want to peer with, and this is information that I need if I'm using BGP to manage my network. So when I'm back on this NMS page, there were a couple devices that I wanted to click into as well because we do get a lot of folks who complain about stale data and slow polling. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to chat about that for a second. So I'm here looking at this F5 Big IP device here. If I click into the CPU, and then since it's Kentik, I know I can filter the time down. I can look at it just in the last 5 minutes if I want to run that query. I've got an average there. Let's look at the last 15 minutes and then we'll do maximum aggregation. So I can see here that I'm actually polling every minute,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So when I see a change here, like this this is about as granular as I can get with SNMP
Right.
is polling every minute. So if there is a change within that minute, I'm going to see the granularity of that. And that's something that our NMS is set to do by default to poll every minute. And but for your less important gear, for your less expensive gear and less critical to your workloads, if you want to poll less frequently, you can absolutely do that. It's totally configurable.
Sure.
But like, let's say I'm if I'm troubleshooting something and I really want more granular information, there are some use cases and also devices that support this where I want way more granular data. Like I want every second, right? So let's see if I can find this. Here's another router where I have, you see how this says live?
Yeah.
Live means this is streaming telemetry, right? So I'm not sure if this is gRPC protocol, but it may be where I'm getting this data. And this one, I'm not polling it every minute. Instead, I'm getting data pushed. Anytime there's a change, I'm going to know and understand what that change is. So if I look at that in the last hour, I can see real data streaming in whenever something happens and there's an event with this device. So the
Right.
fact that Mhm.
Sorry, and just for those people who haven't caught up with streaming telemetry, it is the network device version of open telemetry. But the idea is that with SNMP, you have to ask the device, "How are you doing? Give me some data." Whereas streaming telemetry is push based, so it is less of an interruption for that device. It's when you say, "Oh, I'm getting every second," I know there are people watching this who are like, "Oh my gosh, that's a DDoS attack! Don't do that to me." Whereas it's not really, because the device is deciding when it's going to push the information out, and it becomes much more efficient because of it.
Yeah, yeah. So the cool thing about this NMS is not that you have to use streaming telemetry for everything because you're not going to do that, right? But you can when you have those devices that enable that and that allow you to use protocols like this one, you can take advantage of that without having to use a special tool to monitor it. So that's
Awesome.
pretty neat. And I think the last big thing that I wanted to show you all is the metrics explorer.
Hmm.
So, like, what about it's great to be able to look at things by the interface, by the device, but what about when I want to see what's going on across kind of the entire network, or I want to just have access to my entire data set and dig in to averages, intervals, things like that. So here I'm able to look at my entire data set as time series data. And right now I'm looking at in utilization and out utilization. I'm grouping by device name and by interface name. We're looking at average data in the last hour. I've run this query. But let's say that BGP is something that I use to run my network, and I want to run a report around everything that we are collecting BGP statistics from. I can go up here and search this. I'm going to look at prefixes. And I want to understand which devices are rejecting routes, let's say. So I'll
Hmm.
click rejected as the metric. I'm going to group by device name. And let's run this query and see what we get. Now see how fast it pulls that data. And I can see here I do have an outlier. I've got this one NMS router that's rejecting all of the routes, whereas everything else appears normal. But I've got other fields. I've got like advertised, received. So I can add those if I want, so that like have more information here. Yeah, so basically it's like I've just got this giant database. It lets me ask questions and then organize the information the way that I want.
But
Yeah.
Rosalind,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, if you didn't know where to start with Metrics Explorer,
that would be
um,
me, right?
yeah,
This is really
is
cool, but
there
I don't know any of
another
this stuff.
way to query this data, or are there out of the box queries?
Yeah, that's a really
People
good
use?
question. And that's something that we thought about a lot when we were building this. So, yes, if I want to, like, I can type in here interface utilization by device, and then let's try to run that and see what happens. And the system is smart enough to understand that I'm looking for the grouping by device name, grouping by interface name, but maybe I want to drill into it a little bit more. I want to look at like something with the device name. So let's say with device name, is that going to filter it for me? Should filter. Yeah. So now I'm going to see only ones with a device name that contain this string that I put in. And this is all stuff that I can, this is all stuff, see, so how it added a filter there. These are all things that I can do in the query editor, but it's much more approachable to kind of do it this way. If I'm looking for a particular site, looking for a particular device, or I want to like just look at WAN routers or something, if I want to just type that in here, that's very accessible to me to query it in that way. And this all kind of goes back to our principle. If you only have dashboards or you only have widgets, you're inevitably going to get that one question that you really want to answer. You need to understand the answer and you just can't get to the data. That's what the Metrics Explorer is for. It's designed to let you do that. And this natural language query interface makes that a little bit easier. Yeah.
So that was a really nice and obviously a very abbreviated overview. We have lots of videos on the deep dive how-tos and things like that. But hopefully we've answered the question about, what is an NMS? Why is an NMS? How is an NMS? And more importantly, what is Kentik? What's Kentik's approach to it? So we're at the part of close up that I call the lightning round. It's just any final thoughts, any big ideas that you want folks to walk away with. And the one that I'd like to remind people, we hit it really early on, but we talked about, why not just build it yourself, or why not just use what comes out of the box? And the build it yourself question comes up a lot at conferences and in conversations I have with folks. And my answer is something that I learned really early on, which is that, building it yourself is only free if your time is worthless. So because you will spend a lot of time, owning and maintaining and building out, and it's never going to be big enough. The other one, a long-standing comment that's just been out in open source community for a long time is no is temporary, yes is forever. Once you say yes to a feature or yes to a project, you are going to own that thing for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. So here, what we're saying at Ken is let us be the one who said yes, and that way you don't have to own or maintain it. That would be the thing I want people to walk away with as far as NMS goes. But anything else? And Rosalind, I'm going to pick on you first again.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I think when I think about this and through this conversation, I mean, we started the episode by saying, NMS have been around for a really long time. SNMP has been around for a really long time. And sometimes people talk a little bit of trash about that. But the thing is, it's not that the ingredients, the tools that we're using have totally changed. It's that we have new tools, we have new environments now, and one of the things that has also really changed is our teams, right? So our kind of platform engineering teams and site reliability engineering teams are managing infrastructure in a way that I think like network teams and system administrators used to. And I know that because I was a systems administrator working in that kind of old school environment. And now now I went, now I'm a product marketer for a network observability company. So like teams change, expertise changes, and things change. And the goal is not to trash old technology and dump it, but to try to embrace it and try to embrace all of the knowledge that we have from our networks and from understanding our devices in a way that will also embrace some of these newer technologies and allow us to kind of, I guess, move into the future without taking our tool belt off. Does that make sense? I think that's
It
what I'm
does.
trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to help you do. I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Kendra, bring it home. What are your thoughts?
No pressure. No, I think I agree with Rosalind. I think like the landscape, like the external landscape has changed much faster than our sort of internal environments can keep up with. And so, Leon, like you said, I always think about like you either, at a software company, especially you either are building or you're selling. And if you're building something that as a business you're not selling, then you might be wasting your time. So, I think like that build versus buy conversation as that comes up. But yeah, I think, the key is just finding, making sure the solutions that you invest in are flexible and can, keep up with the times while also, acknowledging that we all have some dinosaur systems that we need to keep running and
Right.
keep tabs on at the same time.
Yeah.
Very good.
And switching to a new system shouldn't feel like kayaking down a
Yeah.
waterfall, right? It should feel like it should feel
It also shouldn't feel like kayaking up a waterfall.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
You want to be
Neither
floating
one of
along.
those.
You want to be on the lake, not in the river. Maybe.
Right, exactly. Again, relaxed, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot thank you both enough for taking time out of your really busy days to share some of these thoughts with me. And hopefully we'll have you back again really soon on Close Up. Thank you. I also want to thank everyone watching this episode. It's no exaggeration to say that there is a lot of bingeable content out on the internet right now. And we here at Kentik are grateful for you taking some of your precious viewing time and sharing it with us. If you'd like to get notified when new episodes of Close Up drop, feel free to use the subscribe button now. For Kentik Close Up, I'm Leon Adato.